What do you really feel when you look at your partner? And more importantly, what are you hiding from them and from yourself? Take a moment and face it, because the truth about your relationship lies in the things you ignore every day, in the small gestures that are missing, in the words left unspoken. You know what I'm talking about. That discomfort that arises in mundane moments, that silence that weighs when you avoid certain topics. Do you know that feeling that something isn't right, but you can't define it? It's time to stop pretending it will go away on its own. It won't. Where has the connection you had gone? Take a good look at what happens between you two now. Every argument that ends without a real resolution. Every time you choose silence instead of saying what you truly feel, it's creating a chasm and you know it. And if you think the other doesn't feel it, you are mistaken. They perceive it, perhaps as much as you do, but both of you prefer to avoid it, maybe out of fear of what you'll find. But you can't build something solid on appearances, on a false peace. If you want truth in your relationship, stop hiding. Face what is right there in front of you. When was the last time you really listened to what your partner has to say? I'm not talking about the words they use, but what they are truly feeling. The looks, the gestures, the way they react. All of this tells a story that you may be ignoring. A story of accumulated hurt, frustrated expectations, small disappointments that keep adding up until it becomes impossible to pretend they aren't there. Do you want this relationship to last? Then stop running away. Stop putting things off. Every hidden feeling is another brick in the wall that you are building between each other. And until you tear down this wall, the true connection will get lost. Speak, listen, even if it hurts, even if it seems risky, because this is the only chance you have to save something real. And remember, it's not just the other person's responsibility, it's yours too. If you are here, it's because you know that this path of silences and omissions no longer works. What you have, or what is left of it, will only hold up if you have the courage to get out of this comfort zone, out of this bubble of routine that seems safe, but is corroding everything that was once real between you. Don't fool yourself into thinking this is stability. Stability is not silencing what bothers you, it's facing it. It's having a foundation strong enough to withstand the weight of the truth. And there is no other way to do this but by speaking what has been held back, listening to what is painful, and abandoning the idea that if you ignore the problems, they will disappear. Want to understand what's really happening? Then start with what you have been avoiding. Think about the moments of impatience, the small criticisms, the looks that say more than words. These actions, these signals, are the foundations of disconnection. Every unspoken word becomes a barrier between you. You may be side by side, living the same routine but emotionally distant, walking in opposite directions without even realizing it. And if you think your partner doesn't notice, you're mistaken. Deep down, they feel the weight of this distance as much as you do. Perhaps both of you are waiting for the other to take the first step, for the other to acknowledge the flaws, for the other to start this difficult conversation. But the truth is, neither of you seems willing to expose yourselves. And while you both hide behind excuses, old grievances, and a false sense of normality, time erodes more and more the foundation of what you've built. If you want to know what's really happening in your relationship, the answer lies in the details. In the moments you avoid looking into their eyes, in the arguments that end without a real resolution, in the times you swallow your emotions to keep the peace, a peace that only exists on the surface. It is in these small acts of omission and silence that the truth hides, but understand, everything you ignore takes root, and at some point, those roots will grow into something big enough to destroy any connection that still remains between you. When was the last time you genuinely complimented each other, without formality, without that day-to-day obligation? When was the last time one of your actions truly made your partner feel important to you? These small gestures, which were natural at the beginning, now seem like an effort. And do you know why? Because you stopped nurturing that connection. You let the routine erase what was genuine. But let me be direct. It's no use continuing in the same way and expecting different results. It takes courage to break these patterns, because in the end, everything you've been avoiding is what needs to be faced. The arguments that always end the same way, the resentments that keep piling up, the expectations you place on each other without even communicating them. All of this needs to come to light. without filters, without fear of what the other will think. This is the point where many give up, thinking that if they try to fix things, they will only hurt themselves more. But actually, it's the opposite. It is from this confrontation, this process of putting every feeling on the table, that you will discover if there is still something real there. And if there is, it's the only way to preserve it. Because love does not sustain itself with half-truths or with a routine where you barely look at each other. Love is built, reinforced, with vulnerability, with the willingness to hear what is uncomfortable, with the commitment to make every word, every gesture, have a true intention. So start now, face this with courage. Ask yourself what you are willing to lose if you continue leaving everything as it is. If the answer is everything, then you already know what you need to do. Start with an honest conversation. Ask your partner how they feel and be prepared to listen, really listen, to what they have to say. Drop your defenses, abandon your pride, and be truly present without trying to protect yourself. Because it is this raw honesty that will bring back what you lost, or will clarify what really remains. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. The time to act is now, while there is still something to be rescued. And make no mistake, this will require effort. It will be uncomfortable. But it's this or continue pretending that everything is fine while everything falls apart. So ask yourself, are you willing to face what hurts to get back what once was good? Or will you continue letting life take its course until what you have becomes unrecognizable, until there is nothing left worth having? If you're still here, then you know you have a choice to make, a choice you might have postponed for too long. It's not about keeping up appearances or kicking the can down the road. It's about facing head-on, with honesty, what really remains between you two. And yes, that is a tough decision, because to reconnect, you will have to let go of what you're using to protect yourself. You will have to abandon the idea that you can simply move on without addressing what's buried between you. So ask yourself, what are you ready to lose if you keep avoiding this? Look at your partner, really look, and ask if you're willing to let them go like this, without the courage to face what's destroying this connection. The answer to that is, what will define your future? But if you feel there is something worth saving, then you already know what you need to do. Start by admitting to yourself that perhaps you failed to listen, that maybe you've avoided for too long discussing what truly matters. Because no relationship can survive without genuine dialogue, the kind of dialogue where there are no excuses or justifications, just two people trying to understand each other without masks. And if you think it's too late for that, remember, time doesn't wait, but you still have a chance to do things differently. If there's one last hope for you two, it's in the willingness to confront mistakes, to listen to what the other feels, even if it hurts, even if it seems difficult to change. This is the ultimate proof that there's still something valuable there. You don't need to know all the answers right now. You just need to take the first step. Be there, available, willing to let down your guard and show what you really feel, what you really think, even if it means revealing your insecurities, your doubts, everything you've hidden until now. And if you think that is asking too much, then ask yourself, what is more important, keeping pride or rescuing what remains true between you? Because pride, silence, and distance have never saved any relationship. It's the truth spoken, the heartfelt apologies made, and the willingness to understand each other that make the difference. And maybe you think you have tried everything, but have you really made space for a conversation without defensiveness, where the goal is not to prove a point, but to build a path together? I'm not saying it's easy. It never is. Rebuilding requires you to let go of the comfort of let's leave it for later, we'll solve it tomorrow. Because tomorrow could be too late. And maybe this is the last chance to show that you still value what you've built, that there is still a spark there. But you need to act now. Each day that passes without you connecting is another step toward definitive distancing, toward an emptiness that no one wants to face, but that grows in the silence, in the absence. If you want to keep this, if you want this to last, then prove it. Show, with real actions, that you are willing to do whatever it takes. Don't expect the other person to solely bear the weight of saving what remains, because a relationship is a partnership, and no partnership survives neglect, lack of presence. It's time to face what is in front of you and decide, together, if it's worth starting over. This is the reality, and the decision is yours. You know that the weight you feel, that sensation that something is missing, won't disappear on its own. Ignoring it won't solve anything. Pretending that everything is fine only widens the disconnection between you. If you continue down this path, everything that is still familiar will become strange. That's why you need to act. You need to get the words off your chest, say what you've never had the courage to express, hear what you've never been willing to accept. Because as long as there is silence, there will be hurt, and the more you avoid it, the deeper the chasm will become. Do you know that feeling that your partner is far away, even when they're right next to you? That's not by chance, and you know it. Every time you choose to remain silent instead of solving the issue, every time you prefer to ignore rather than face it, you are choosing distance. And every distance, no matter how small, erodes intimacy, destroying the bond. So ask yourself, how far are you willing to go to save this? It can be uncomfortable, even painful, but true love is not built in safe zones. It requires the courage to say what bothers you, to show what you still feel. It needs a vulnerability that you may have avoided until now. But without it, what you have is just an empty coexistence. Is that what you want? Do you want to be just a presence next to the other, without a true connection? The first step is realizing that small gestures make a difference. The way you look, how you touch, how you react to what the other says, all of this reveals what you really feel. And if you are absent, if your look is distant, if your gestures are mechanical, it becomes clear. You cannot fake intimacy. You cannot expect the other to feel your presence if inside you are distant. You need to truly give yourself. And if you think the other person doesn't feel this distance, you're mistaken. The truth is, no matter how much they try to ignore it, both know that something is wrong. Both feel the weight of what was left behind. And if they're here, there still exists the possibility of recovering what was lost. But it won't happen without effort, without a genuine willingness to rescue what was true. Without putting aside pride, without disregarding the small vanities. Look at what remains between you. Ask yourself what you are willing to do to make this work, because the time for hesitation has already passed. What matters now is the action, the gesture, the word. A relationship that survives is made of moments like this, where each one takes responsibility for what they feel and face it head-on, without dodging, without hiding. Because only in this way will you both rediscover that intimacy, that connection that you once had. And remember, this decision is now. If you leave it for tomorrow, there might not be anything left to be saved. So the time has come to make a choice. There is no more room to ignore, to set aside what truly matters. You need to decide if you want to reconnect, if you are ready to face what is between you with courage and sincerity. Your relationship will not save itself. It depends on your presence, on your dedication. It depends on your willingness to bring back the truth, the honesty, the affection that once existed. Do your part. Say what has never been said. Listen to what needs to be heard. Rebuild the moments that were left behind. Because, in the end, it is these moments of truth that make love real, that create a relationship worth preserving. If this video made you reflect, if it brought a new perspective to your relationship, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this. Leave a like if this message made sense to you. And I want to hear from you. Share your experiences in the comments, what you have faced in your relationship, and what you have learned from it. Let's go together on this journey of evolution and reconnection. This is the beginning of a new story. Yours.